Well, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. It's good to be together, at least online anyway. It's good to be connected. I heard someone say that they've never felt more connected than they have done right now, so that's quite amazing. I had a Zoom call this week with a bunch of church leaders from across the nation, and people are saying almost the same things that we've been saying here, that more people than ever are watching online. I think a survey was done to say uh, a quarter of the entire population have gone and looked at a church service in the last 6 weeks. That's amazing. That actually, even though there's a lot of trauma and pain and distress and anxiety, people are turning online to church. The word prayer has been Googled more times than ever before. So it's fascinating times that we're living in right now. So it's good to be part of the community of faith that are seeking to navigate these times together. So, right, let's read some verses together. Hebrews chapter 11, and I'm going to read from verse 1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. For by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith Abel still speaks, even though he's dead. And by faith Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. For anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. By faith, he condemned the world and became heir of righteousness that is in keeping with faith. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who is past childbearing age, was unable to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not see the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country that they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, and he has prepared a city for them. So I would like us to think this morning about this period of lockdown as if you like, a journey, or maybe a more spiritual word, pilgrimage. To think about us on a pilgrimage from what was familiar, what was known, to what is now being described as a new normal. To give some idea to the thought that we are all on a journey between these two places, what we knew and what is the new normal. Now, as we know, the lockdown is easing for most of us, not all of us. Shops are reopening, but our shopping experience will not be the same. We've got to stand in strange queues. There's checkout screens. There's one-way arrows around the store. IKEA, obviously, we're ahead of the game there. The high street already was struggling, but when we get back to normal, there'll be no Debenhams, no Beals, no Oasis, no Carphone Warehouse, no Cath Kitson, and much to Caroline's dismay, no Laura Ashling. Schools are reopening, but they'll look different. Attempting to keep 5-year-olds apart will be a real challenge. And in Germany this week, churches are being allowed to open, but people will need to remain 2 meters apart. No singing is allowed, and the over 70s are unable to attend. So it will be very different to what we've known. And who knows what restaurants and pubs will have survived when they are finally allowed to open. So we have some indications of what a new normal could look like, but in reality, we are moving towards lots of uncertainty. Now, the Bible is full of journeys, people on journeys. We've read here in Hebrews about Abraham and other heroes of the faith and their journeys. There was also Israel's exodus from Egypt to a promised land that took an awful lot longer than they expected. There was the journey of the Magi, the wise men from the east following a star in search of a new king. There was the journey of Joseph and Mary with their newborn baby Jesus to escape Herod's threats. Lots of journeys. Now today, if I want to go on a journey, I simply type in my destination to Google Maps and off I go. I know exactly where I'm going to go, and I know exactly when I'm going to get there. But for these journeys that I've described, the destinations were unclear. Abraham left his country, his people, his father's household on a word from God that God would show him the land where he was to settle. Israel crossed the Red Sea into the wilderness, and for 40 years they wandered around uncertain when or where they would arrive. The wise men followed a star that led them hundreds of miles for maybe 2 or even 3 years. Joseph and Mary fled Egypt with the newborn Jesus, uncertain if they would ever return. Now, the common ingredient of all these journeys was this, as we read in Hebrews chapter 11, faith. Faith in God, faith that he would do what he had promised, faith in his goodness, faith in his provision. Now, for many years, the practice of pilgrimage has been growing in popularity. It's one based in scripture. In Luke chapter 2, we see Jesus and his family on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. In Acts chapter 2, we see the pilgrims, Jewish pilgrims from all over the then known world, having arrived in Jerusalem for the day of Pentecost, the Feast of Pentecost. And as the church grew and spread, so did the idea of pilgrimage. Journeys were often taken to visit holy sites. Winchester was a famous pilgrimage destination, Walsingham, Canterbury, and so forth. Apparently, before he banned all pilgrimages as part of the Reformation in 1538, Henry VIII, it was claimed that his favorite pilgrimage was from St. Mary's Church next to Central Hall to a small holy site just beneath Itchen Bridge, which is no longer there. Well, the bridge is still there, but the site is no longer there. The fact that it was also the shortest pilgrimage in the country might have something to do with it as well. But as I said, pilgrims are growing in popularity. People traveling to Iona or Lindisfarne or take on the Pilgrim's Way or going to Teze, or the most popular one of all, the Camino de Santiago, which I know a number of the folk from the church have been on in recent years. In 1984, 423 pilgrims completed the journey. Last year, 2019, 278,000 pilgrims completed the journey. In his book, Sacred Travels, Recovering the Ancient Practice of Pilgrimage, author Christian George said this: "The discipline of pilgrimage reminds us to slow down and take life one step at a time. It reminds us that life is an emotional, physical, and spiritual journey that requires upward and inward conditioning. It moves us from certainty to dependence, from confidence to brokenness, and from assurance in ourselves to faith in God." So, if we are to view this time, this lockdown period, as pilgrimage, what is it that we are noticing on the journey? Some of us are bored. Some are stressed. Some are busier than ever. Some are zoomed out. For others, nothing much has changed apart from not being able to leave the house. For others, everything has changed. Some are anxious, some are nervous, some are scared, some are confused. But we are where we are. We can't make things go faster. We can't change things very easily. We can't use Google Maps. We don't know our ETA, our expected time of arrival. But what are we noticing in ourselves? What are we noticing around us on the journey? What are we aware of that we weren't aware of before? What is God saying? What is God doing in us? I read another quote from an author called Eric Howell. He said this: "Pilgrimage is a journey nearer to the heart of God and deeper into the life of God. The hope of all pilgrimage is realized when we have renewed eyes to be happily surprised by God's mysterious presence in all times and places, even at home." I love that sentence, renewed eyes to be happily surprised by God's mysterious presence in all times and places, even at home. We may not be able to travel very far, but on this lockdown journey, this pilgrimage that we're all on, we can pay attention with renewed eyes to the mystery of what God is doing in us at this time. Now, these heroes of faith in Hebrews chapter 11 were able to keep going because they had their eyes fixed on the ultimate destination. Now, as Christians, we do have hope for an ultimate destination. We believe that risen Christ will return to mend what is broken, to fix what is dysfunctional, to bring to an end all injustice and equality, to liberate all who are oppressed, to establish a new heaven and a new earth, the home of righteousness, where God will be all in all, and everyone, every event, every matter, every thought is finally subject to his lordship. That's our great hope. That's our ultimate destination. Let me just finish here with some words from the Apostle Paul from 2 Corinthians chapter 4. "Therefore," he says, "do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day." Listen to this. "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." So maybe we could consider this current season of lockdown light and momentary trials. Phil shared a few weeks ago about how God changes us through testing and trials, through troubles, and we find ourselves in one of these. And so there's not a lot we can do apart from give attention to what it is we see that God is doing in us. So maybe we can consider this season, this lockdown period, even with the easing of restrictions, as a time of pilgrimage, as a journey from what we have known to what will become a new normal that as yet is still uncertain. But we hold on to the hope of the ultimate destination and the ultimate certainty that we have in Christ. May God bless you.